Hello, it's me. I have to pack tonight because I'm leaving at 6 in the morning tomorrow, which makes this kind of a dumb idea for me to do, but I do need to do this, make this separate video because I don't want this to get buried into a long-winded review thing, me talking about monsters that no one really seems to be interested in anyways, because this is actually really important. Um, so, it's about the last spider pit sequence. And give me 1 second here. Okay, so one of the problems with Peter Jackson's recreation of the spider pit sequence is he has the spider itself, the giant pit spider, looks nothing like how it appeared in the photos that we have of it. Additionally, neither does the Arachnocidis or the tentacle worm, which in this instance isn't a worm. It's funny to me how the tentacle worm and the Arachnocidis are so completely known, and yet Peter Jackson's had the impression that he had almost nothing to go off of. So that's strange. And a really telling moment is if you watch the thing on the Kong DVD where he's talking about the process of putting it together. They bring up a picture of the Arachnocidis with the big googly eyes, the big dumb face, and the little tiny claws. And he looks at it and he goes, "There's the spider." So quick note. I hadn't taken a very close look at the drawing that he looks at in the video, but I have since, and when I'm looking, listening back to the video and editing it, and I went to look up the photograph to, put it in the video, and it actually is the spider and not the Arachnocidis. So I'm trying to make a point about, oh, Peter Jackson's so wrong, and then I'm just the one who's wrong. It doesn't really go against my ultimate point. There's many other examples of Peter Jackson just sort of like not caring about certain details. But I just thought, full disclosure, in this instance, I'm actually wrong. That is a drawing. That is the spider model, not the Arachnocidis. Okay, back to the present. And this kind of drops into a larger problem with Peter Jackson, that he doesn't really understand what he's talking about. Like a lot of the time, he's very enthusiastic. He has a very real, genuine love of Kong. He just doesn't... it's a very... ephemeral love of it, I suppose. He's not nerdy, I guess, is the way you could put it. But basically, if you've seen O'Brien's work, if you don't just care about King Kong, if you do watch O'Brien's other movies, you do know that what the tentacle worm is and what this other creature, the Arachnocidis, is, and then it's not a mystery. So this confusion created a bit of a problem with the designs that they made for the stop-motion puppets, and part of that has to do with the storyboard. Now, the storyboards for King Kong, a lot of them match almost perfectly the way that they're filmed. A good example of this is the pterosaur fight, the pterodactyl, or whatever it's called. But the thing is, when you see the spider pit scene, it seems a little too out there, like too crazy. I'm trying... Yeah, here we go. So you've got a spider coming out over this way. You got a crab creature coming out this way. You have tentacles coming out of the wall, all this sorts of stuff. Now, if you're not already aware, a lot of this one in particular, I'm just thinking into it, but Duray is a huge influence on King Kong, but the spider pit sequence painting or drawing or whatever is inspired by the illustrations he did of Don Quixote. And Don Quixote had a lot of this little creatures crawling up out of the darkness and tentacles and snakes peering out of holes and caves and things like that. And there's a lot of direct comparisons. If I bother with it, I'll put them up on the screen for the video. And which is all interesting to know. But then you look at it and it's like, how is that going to translate? Because you look at the script and you've got 5 creatures. You've got the Foetodon, the Arachnocidis, the Tentacle worm, the pit spider, and the skull crawler. And that's it. That's all that the script mentions. And, but, so here's the problem. We know about 5 models that Obi actually built. Because we know that there is a giant spider model. We've seen pictures of it. It's gigantic. It's hairy. It's black. We don't know what its face looks like. We know that there's a smaller creature that's a hybrid between a crab and a spider, the spider crab, Arachnocidis. It has very small pinchers. It has a really goofy face. And it does sort of have a crab-like body, but it's oval-shaped and it's warty. And it was white in Kong, and in the Black Scorpion, it was painted black. We also have the tentacle worm that we've seen in action. We don't have any stills for it on Kong, but we do see it in action, and we know that the art differs from it, from the art that we have of it. It differs considerably from the final model. We also, of course, we have the skull crawler, and then there's the pig lizard, which never ended up in a film, but we do have very clear photographs of it. We do have good reference for what it looked like. And this is generally, this is the way that it is, essentially. And I think the Peter Jackson reconstruction informs this to a certain degree. I think that when you have these 5 models that are seen and well known of, I think when you talk about 5 creatures in the script, which is what people keep going back to, that number 5 is kind of a big deal. However, there's 6 creatures. And I don't just mean there's like a extra version of the script or anything like that. There is a 6th creature that was built and modeled, and it's in pictures that everyone has already seen. And it's in the storyboards, for fuck's sake. And so the conclusion seems to be that the storyboard differs considerably from what was built and what was filmed. And we know that to be the case, at least to a degree, with the tentacle worm. And the assumption is that the crab creature became the Arachnocidis. And you can see that the spider and the spider crab are different, because in one of those movies that they used the models for props for, the non-monster movie ones, I think it was the one with Bela Lugosi in it, and he was like a sculptor or something. But yeah, in that one you can see the pit spider, and it's absolutely enormous. And it's huge, and it's black, and it's furry, just like that picture that was in Famous Monsters of Filmland. And below it, you can see hanging the tiny little creature, which is immediately recognizable as the trapdoor spider, or the Arachnocidis, from the Black Scorpion, also easily recognizable in photos taken of the spider pit setup with the models in there. So we know that those are 2 different ones. Of those pictures where you can clearly see the Arachnocidis from behind with its warty backside with all the bumps on it, you can see to the right of it crab claws, really big crab claws that appear to be, they appear identical to the storyboard or the painting. Hold on a second, because I'm actually going to find that before I continue. Okay, I'm back. I didn't end up saving those two, or at least they're not in the folder with all the other spider pit pictures that I have. Anyways, but so there's I think the reason I've never noticed this before is because there's a set of 2 of these photos, and they're very similar. They're of the same set, and they have the same 2 models on them. And on one of them, it's actually not too clear, and if I'm good at editing, that'll be the one I'm showing now. And it looks like there's a creature. It's got legs, and it's up on the log, but it's the second one. You can see on the one side, it's what looks like the Arachnocidis. It's got the rounded, warty backside. It has 2 or 4 long legs planted on the ground, and then a set of 2 up in the air. You can't really see what's on the end of them very well, but you know, it's pretty obviously the 2 little tiny pincers. And then in this next one, you see the Arachnocidis turned around, so you can see its backside even better. And whatever was on the log isn't there anymore, and instead it's down here facing the camera, and you see the ridges of the backside of its claws, and it's a very flat-looking critter, and it has very low to the ground legs, and it looks like the damn crab from the art. So, personally, to me, that's pretty shocking. And it kind of throws, you know, I think there's a lot of criticism about Peter Jackson's version of the spider pit sequence. Mine is mostly because of the designs of the creatures, because they simply weren't paying attention. It's not that they didn't try their hardest, it's just that had they put that effort into what we actually know, like all of the knowledge that we had, that effort would have been so much better utilized, and we would have such a better piece to show for it. You know, and I like what we got. It's just that, you know, blah blah blah, and you know, I don't know. It's not a 5 creature scene anymore. It's 6, and the thing is, there may be more to it than that. You know, who can say? Because that's all that we can see. You know, we know that the big spider and the Arachnocidis are different because we saw them in the same shot in that one movie where they were used as props. We know that these 2, the crab and the Arachnocidis, are different because we can see them both in the same picture. In none of these pictures have we seen little snakes or things on the wall, but is that because we just haven't noticed them? Are there maybe even smaller little spidery creatures that were crawling on the floor or something like that? You know, we tend not to... It's easy to dismiss this storyboard painting as too fanciful, as too out there, just because that's how it strikes us immediately. But given what we know about how closely most of these storyboards were translated into the film, and now, or I don't know, maybe I'm just late to the party, but I've never seen anyone mention the 6 monster before. There is definitely a monster that looks exactly like that crab in the storyboard, and we also know that it's his best work. It kind of makes you wonder, was there even more to this? Is the crab the end of the story, or was the set actually animated? Were there like animated vines to make it look like there were things in the walls? Were there little tiny creatures crawling around on the floor? There are little snakes and things crawling around in these drawings, and that's really, that really just gives me shivers thinking about it. Because remember, this is O'Brien's greatest work, so who knows what the ceiling could be, you know. But that was just shocking to me when I noticed it. And I don't know. I want to say somebody else has noticed it. I feel like I can't be the first one to notice it, but, you know, whatever. Anyways, I'm going to slap some pictures in there, in this, and upload it real quick. It shouldn't, 15 minutes is a long time just to say, hey, there's 3 spiders. There's a spider, a crab, and a spider crab, you know, in a story. But I just wanted to go through and kind of, you know, hammer in the details as much as I could. You know, this isn't, I'm not trying to, you know, go, oh, look at this, look at this. I just kind of need it to be out there because I've never seen anyone else make this observation before, and given that the spider pit scene is so important, people need to know about this. So, you know, I don't want this detail buried inside of the other videos I'm going to make. So, there you go. So I'm going to try and get this out as quickly as I can. Starting on the 3rd, I'll be doing my Kong videos. It'll basically just be like Deathversary or Rebirthversary, except it's about King Kong this time, and I probably won't be as interested. And I won't get super emotional about it all the time, but I'll try to give it the same attention that I give to my Godzilla videos. Do the history, do the development, do the reviews, do some personal thoughts, do some stuff like that. And of course I'm going to talk about the spider pit much, much more, and probably every single one of those videos because I'm obsessed with it. But, so that's that. How I need to go write more notes, and gotta make checklists and get packed and do all this stuff. It's a nightmare. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you soon. Bye.